So let me just move on to the next question. That is, in the midst of self-stimulatory behavior that you were talking previously, what can we glean from what we are experiencing or seeing?
So, yes, what I put down here is, I just put a highlight. Besides self-stimulatory behavior, what else do I observe in my child's behavior? I see him, for example, maybe jumping up and down, flapping. Yeah, that's one of the forms of self-stim. Maybe a child will just see a small object, a little bead that's fallen off a chain, a necklace, and play with that, or maybe a pencil shaving. Somebody's shaved the pencil. That little thing that has been rolling there, that can catch their attention. So any little thing. My point is not to focus on the little the little self-stim, but to say what can I glean from this? What can I observe and make something out of it? Yeah, rather than either downplay it, ignore it, or just myself irresponsibly react to it. Well, this is a cue, when the child is non-verbal, when he's challenged with all the possible skills that we take for granted, we have to start somewhere, and somewhere is his cue is what he is into. Many children have, after the age of 2.5, whenever they lost their few words of language, whenever they lost their eye contact, whenever they lost their the interaction and the relating that she had with us, from then on, that downtrend, maybe the parents lost heart, maybe the caregiver has not seen it as a hopeful sign. But I tell you, the little things that they are doing in self-stim, besides, as we just said, redirecting it to something positive, we have to see what, especially if it's an object, what is the habitual behavior? Is it lining things up, on the desk? The pens are being lined up, color-wise, size-wise, objects being lined up which are similar looking shape, any objects, just things that are going to take up his attention, and arranging them that way, or these little cues we have to pick up on, make a note of it, and in consistency we have to communicate this to everybody who's in the child's life. Yeah, can these, I've also mentioned, can these be redirected to another constructive activity, or an activity which is now my goal for this child in a month's time, 3 months time, perhaps something simple, so even a week's time. This skill could be waiting. The skill could be exchanging. It could be turn taking. These are all social skills. But we could use this self-stim. For example, playing with a small bead. Then, if the child, if we get a collection of such items, the child may be more happy. Especially if, taking care that the child is not going to eat these things. Put them in his mouth, or So we have to take care that the thing the child is playing with is not going to be harmful to him. If it's sharp or something, then we try to hide or keep such objects away. But what I'm trying to say is, you start with what he's playing with, start with what he is obsessed with, and redirect it to something else. For example, we can, if he's playing with one bead, we introduce another 10, a whole bag full of them, and start, maybe we line them up and we count. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't mean that we're teaching him the skill of counting. It doesn't mean that we're teaching him anything in particular, but that's intervention. If he's allowing us to intervene, that's where we start. If he doesn't allow us, we try to we allow it. but we try and put that object in another fun activity. For example, the child is small, we allow him to have that the little thing, the pencil shaving, the little bead, the little pencil, or the eraser, or the toothpaste tube, for all you know. Maybe that's giving himself some self-stimulatory pleasure. Let him have it, and we can swing the child around. We can say a nursery rhyme with him when he has that in his hand. So we're making use of his using that object, and we are intervening. We want him ultimately to get into to appreciate music. So we'll say more nursery rhymes. We want him to do some sensory integration activities. So when we know that if he's seeking deep pressure, if he's seeking vestibular input, we will use that self-stim time to introduce other skills, other relationship, to increase an eye contact. Even if he looks at me, if I withdraw that object, he will look at me. He's given me an eye contact. We return it to him, and we're using language. We say take, we say give me, count to 1, 2, 3, and we return it. So now we are in there's turn taking. If there's another sibling, we can share the object, count to 3. Objects are exchanged. He's learning waiting, he's learning turn taking, he's learning that there's another sibling, another classmate, another caregiver who also is interested in your self-stimulatory object, but who wants it for an amount of 1, 2, 3. And on 1, 2, 3, it's exchanged. So he gives it to me, I give him a swing, I can give him a cuddle, I can give him a horsey ride, I can give him a little high five, and give it back to him before the tantrum comes. So every time we take and give, we want to have that yardstick of that moment, which I know, and I want everybody to have the 1, 2, 3. Doesn't mean somebody is going to say 25, they're not going to count to 25. They're going to say 1, 2, 3. This week, everything is 1, 2, 3. Next week, we're going to go to 1, 2, 5 or 10. And introduce a little more distractive exchange. It could be a longer song, it could be 2 songs, it could be counting to 5, we count to 10, we play with the car in between and give him his bead back again. We can withdraw the bead, push the car to him, he pushes it back to us. He's learning another play skill. So start from where he is lost, and you begin to find him. Yes, that's how we find our child. That's how he finds us. Because we are getting into his life, showing him that I love you. I'm coming after you. I'm interested in you. You will love me back. You will be interested in me. You will love the world. You will love everyone who's intervening on the same consistent basis. They love you. You will relate back. So this is how we do intervention, especially at the early stages.
That's very powerful, Mr. Ryan. Because most of the families, I would definitely know that the viewers who are listening to us, there's a lot of hope for them, because I heard you say earlier that families who just give up, they're not able to understand the self-stimming behavior. There's hope for them, because as you said, that this is where the communication starts. You can turn this self-stimming into a very powerful mode of communication. You can just turn it around. So, and I know that we'll be talking in depth. There's a lot more that we need to talk about and discuss, and you can share as well from your experiences. But maybe in the coming weeks, as and when we get some questions from our viewers, we will be delving deeper into those.
Yeah.
So for now, what are some of the family's habits of communication or language that perhaps lend to their child's habits of the same, and alternatively that pose blocks to those to the children? What can the families do? Like just taking the conversation a little further, we'll just talk about communication here, and then we'll move on to diet and lifestyle in the next question. Okay. So just a bit about that here.
So us as the family, the ones who are hand in hand, the forming the ring around the child. Yeah, this is the imagery that I have, where each one's holding the hand, so that not as a trap, not as to confine, to keep confined. That is what it looks like, but definitely to confine the child if the child is showing signs of constant desire to escape. Now that is not because of him. That's because we probably, and in all probability, did not pick up the cues he was giving us before, or we were ill-informed. Nobody knows everything about how we want to. Neither do I. It's just what I'm sharing is my part of my experience, part of what I've observed, part of what I've been told really is effective, and yeah, that is really it. So this imagery of everybody holding hands, what does it indicate? It indicates we are one. All of us need to be one. If a weak link, is a red flag. A broken link is beyond a red flag. It's we have to. It's a matter of moments, a matter of time, where we have to repair that. If our relationships are not that good, we have to do all we can. If we are, there cannot be, and there should not be, family members who are not on the best, or not on practical talking terms with each other, because that's how we maintain consistency. That's a given. We have to be on the same page, speaking the same language. I don't mean, okay, we can speak Hindi, we can speak Urdu, we can speak Arabic at home, we can English, we can. It doesn't mean that language. It means the same yardstick, the same basis. We're all going to use reinforcement. That is the primary language we need to use, the medium of exchange. Yeah, and what is reinforcement? It's reward. Yes, so as I was saying, the reward system is, if it's for example me, if I work in a company, I'm waiting for the end of the month to be paid my salary. Everybody works for a reward. Everybody cooperates, not necessarily for money, but for that smile, for that look of recognition, for that gesture of respect, of honor. These are the higher rewards we have in our relationships, which are non-verbal most of the time, but we know that we hold each other in esteem. This is what we as family, as caregivers, as teachers need to reward our children with. The reward he looks for, the reinforcement he or she, the child, looks for. Now, sometimes at the very basic level, when we are starting at age of 2.5, 3, when there is no language, but if an object is gives the child some self-stimulatory input, that just holding an object, or listening to some song, or watching a video, or playing with a soft toy, or swinging on the swing, yeah, or just being with his favorite person, maybe his grandma, or maybe the one who the caregiver. Even a person can be a reinforcing, a reinforcer for the child. We need to use these relationships, objects, situations, songs, videos to reward. But we don't. But when we are intervening, when we begin our intervention, we begin to slowly, as I said in the earlier question, where we are getting into the life of the child. We need to. It's not only withdraw and then give it again, but it is like participation. So if it's a song or it's a video, we won't leave the child to just stare at the screen for the next half an hour. If it's a song that he loves, it's a video he loves, I can imitate that. that character he's watching. I can do the actions, I can sing in time, I can clap in time, I can even dance like that character. And when he knows the name, for example, if it's Barney, like, the children used to love this Barney, or Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. When we can imitate that, then we can have a little soft toy, a little toy. We can have of that character, a little Tigger, a little Winnie the Pooh, a little Barney doll. These things are reminders of his video, which is reinforcer. Now, this is a new reinforcer. You can have pictures, a book, 2D, 3D reminders, and as many reminders in different ways of that particular reinforcer. So that reinforcer is going to be the medium of exchange where he is going to cooperate with us. So everybody in the family, everybody in his life needs to use the same thing to communicate, and give it to him for the first steps of language in infancy is facial expressions. Like the mother makes the faces, a smiling face, sticks out her tongue and makes all garbling sounds, claps and hides the face and plays peekaboo. These are the infancy interventions. Yeah, so maybe the child is at that level, whether he's maybe not an infant, maybe he's 3 and 4, but is willing to play those games with you because you're intervening and you're using his reinforcer as well. So it is a means to get into his world. Whatever it is, whatever the level is, accept that level and use his reinforcer. Deliver it again, withdraw it, or maybe sing along with the music, and let him look at you. Look there. This is how we are getting in. We're getting into his world. Yeah. So we want to be on the same acceptance level as that reinforcer, or that is our aim in a few days' time, for him to accept me while the reinforcer is being given to him, not for free. So when he's able to accept me while the reinforcer is on, then I can plan my next step. Yeah. I put down another question here. Are all the levels of consistency all the same with everyone in the child's life? The lead person, the mother, the father, the teacher, have to on a time-to-time basis think of this. Are all the levels of consistency the same with everyone in the child's life? Because if some children, if they are not cooperating, we have to see that who is the particular person in his life who's giving him his reinforcer for free, who doesn't have the time or the patience to cooperate with us and maintain consistency. It could be even a visitor, somebody who comes once a week. If that person is going to break consistency, we have to either withdraw that person from direct relating or meeting up, or that person has to cooperate and do the same thing, even for a 5-second span of time. Do it and withdraw. So there is no chance to escape. The language becomes airtight, watertight, and the child will get off the ground. This is what we want to see, that we do not allow any person who in his life who's not part of the program. Yeah. Then is the language hopeful? Is the atmosphere everywhere at home that of hope, or is somebody on the verge of giving up, or somebody doesn't believe in this? We need to get everybody on board. Yeah. Do we raise are we generally loud-spoken, or is there an air of mostly silence, in the house? So we don't speak even on there's nobody who celebrates and makes a big noise about any issue. Yeah. Are we notice how we are, and so accordingly the child will come along. If we're going to be very expressive, there is greater chance, at least with him, if the mood in the house is normally quiet, but we are going to celebrate something, if we're going to overreact for some reinforcing experience for the child, that's how we're going to get eye contact. That's how we're going to get a smile. That's how we're going to look at him with a smile. Then he learns our expressions of affirmation or disapproval. Do we all consciously use language to communicate with the child, or are we also using cues ourselves? We have to have a good mix. Yeah. So these are the things to be aware of. And also, on the flip side, are things quite the opposite at home? Needless to say, are non-conducive to the child's communication or language. Are some of us disinterested, not because we don't love, but because we're just too busy with our work? Are we working late? We leave early in the morning. There's no time for that exchange, emotional exchange, that care exchange. If it's mom, dad, if it's any significant person, we need to make some changes in the shortest possible time for his sake, so that consistency is maintained to the optimum. Every family is different, but to the maximum that we can, because we have to have at least the common goal. And the steps, the means will follow. So on the home front, the homestead, this is what I feel we need to, this is the level of consistency that we need to, the attitude of consistency we need to maintain.
Wow, that is very well explained, Mr. Ryan. I think there are a lot of hidden gems that you've spoken about, a lot of strategies that if the families, they listen to it, they can get a lot of strategies to begin with. My next question is about, you spoke about language and the way the families are communicating. It can be, they are either using a particular kind of language or cues. What about the diet and lifestyle? Do you think that also can be used to enhance the efforts in teaching the children?
Yes. In particular, diet. Yes. There's so many ways of intervention. There's so many. Diet is one of them. For example, I know when I had my nephew, he's much bigger now. He's past 20. But his mom, my sister, would she left virtually no stone unturned. She went into diet, homeopathy, chelation, sensory integration, and all the possible interventions, platforms of intervention that she could do, play therapy. And teaching him so many other skills, play skills, and every moment was it was the way I saw it. That this is something that really inspired me. As if Aiden, my nephew, was the sun, and everybody, all his family members, were the planets circling him. Yeah, so the ones who were the peripheral people who visited, or people who we saw maybe once a week, every few days, were the outer planets. And the ones who are the ones in the home, yeah, including his mom, dad, sister, and even the nanny, and meaning the maid. Everybody knew what their role was in his life, and everybody, it was almost clockwork. Everybody knew what to do, and if it was they were not having a particularly good day, they knew what not to, how not to contribute in an untoward way to Aiden. And if they were more disposed and very happy about things, they would share, try to get into him, play. Had they had time on their hands, they would spend the time with him. Everything, whether it was going to the supermarket, if it was going outdoors, if it was just doing an activity at home, it was almost always about Aiden. So this is how we need to intervene in our child's life, and take one of the areas we need to make some changes is the area of diet. I know my sister would not give. There was this GFCF SF diet, gluten-free, casein-free, sugar-free. Gluten is something that contributes, in a negative effect, in a negative way to children with autism. They will. There is more self-stimulatory behavior. There is more. It just doesn't go well. The gluten in bread and in flour, refined flour, or in biscuits, in bread, in things that can contain gluten, sugar in practically everything. Yeah, all the foods today contain sugar, and casein in milk. So it was replaced with almond milk, soy milk. She had to alter his diet a lot, and that's what we need to do. It's going to be challenging. We have to accept this and make lists of things that our child can eat, lists of things that he cannot. And if we need to have them as the other members of the family, that has to be separately stored, kept out of his reach, the child's reach. When the intervention had just begun in those few months and years, a couple of years, they did give cookies, they did give chocolates, they did give sweet drinks. That was when the manding, the language, the signing needed to get off the ground. So in exchange for getting the child off the ground in the earlier months and years of intervention, these foods had to be given. So it's not uncommon that we allow certain foods. So the child, in exchange, you see, we make a balance. It's an exchange. We will see self-stimulatory behavior. We will see some restlessness, attention deficit. But on the flip side, what's the positive thing he's learning? It is to request those very things which he loves. Okay, it's not, we don't give him too much of it, but we give it once, twice, thrice a day. Those are to be recorded. The manding is a request. It's demand. So B.F. Skinner, who wrote the book Verbal Behavior, and way back in 1957, one of his language of verbal operants is mand. Mand is a request, a demand. So my nephew would every mand of his request. So they would record it. They would click. There was the clicker, and everybody had a clicker at home. So every interaction is mand based. So after he got off the ground doing over 500-600 mands a day, then these foods were withdrawn and given only subject to certain other skills. The parameters are moving up on those other skills. So, and then eventually these foods had to be withdrawn. And as he was growing, so much the other foods, their quantities increased, because like meat and fish and the other things, even chapatis, the other forms of bread, which are lesser, they don't have gluten in them. Yeah. So or rice. Gluten probably in chapatis as well, yes, but rice, these are the things that he could eat. So the point is, we have to make these lists and see that in our consistency, as I said, everybody who's directly involved with the child's life maintains that. Nobody gives them these things for free. When it's the earlier intervention, everything is an exchange. It's barter system. Everything is give and take. He doesn't get anything without manding, without cooperating in a game skill, without cooperating in a social skill like waiting or an eye contact, or saying yes or saying no, or cooperating to put on his shirt, to keep his book back, to put his shoes in place. These are all the skills which we will tell a child, which we take for granted. These children have to learn. So he will get his reinforcer on cooperation with these things. And if he doesn't cooperate to do it himself, we take 1 or 2 steps back, and we do hand-on-hand assistance. Yeah. So we take his hand over, and we both hold that pair of shoes, and we walk over to the shoe rack, place them there, and then he gets his reinforcer. So these are the things that we as interveners cannot take for granted. That one action of cooperating is worth that is worth that man, and that's worth the reinforcer, and that's worth him learning in the long run. The repetition of these these things done over and over and over and over again, the child learns that this is the framework of consistency, that everybody is demanding of me. I will cooperate because everybody speaks that language. Yeah, so it's like the child learns the mother tongue because everybody spoke that mother tongue. If all 5 members speak different languages, the child by age 5 learns a little of everything and is practically confused. So we speak this verbal behavior, is the mother tongue. This is the language of exchange which he's going to pick up. And so diet is very, very important. We can discuss this at greater length later. What are the things that we can, and things advisably to be withdrawn, things to be controlled. Yeah. So that's
I think we've discussed a lot of areas and strategies today. Those were just the surface. We've just touched the surface, and I know there's a lot that you would like to share with the families. Before we end the session today, and what is the one message that you would like to give to the families? Is there hope, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, definitely. It takes me back to one of the what was it? It was a concert back in Indian school, the Center for Special Education, and we had entitled it "Hope Floats." That means that among everything else that floats, that's buoyant, one of the things that the intangible things, everything else, everything that we is tangible floats right on water. Hope is something that stays up because that's what it is. If we don't believe in our child, that equals I don't hope in him. If I've achieved something today, it's because I hoped I could. It's not just I hope, or I hope that I win the lottery. I hope I win the jackpot. No, it's much more than that. It is a determined belief in myself in relation to this child, and a determined, not just a belief, a determined belief. We dig our heels in and say, he will cooperate with me because there is a reason. There is a reason that he's like this. There is a place for him in life. He will achieve that. And he's in my life. That means I have what it takes to intervene and help him. He has what it takes to recognize me as one of the agents to aid him, hold his hand, and move at the same pace together towards our targeted goal of the skills, of the language, of the relating, and move out of that slot called autism. He is moving out. Hope does float. We are going to be floating because we're going to stay afloat and not sink. Our child is going to stay afloat and not sink because of the hope we have, and in time he will also have hope in life. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ryan, and looking forward to the series that we'll be having, and we are going to go in depth to a lot of points that we have discussed today here, and we end on this, that hope certainly floats. Thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Ryan.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Ms. Fatma.